What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Tears Take. I am back to recap The Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 19, Episode 8. It's called Truth Tellers and Lie Detectors. This episode was a lot of filler. I'm going to take you scene by scene. I'll give you the highlights. I'll give you my opinions along the way. And I also want to hear from you. So please comment down below what you agree with, what you don't, what did I miss, what stood out to you. I'm excited to hear from you. And if you like the content, please watch more. Please like and subscribe. I would love to have you here. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. So the first kind of like full scene is Shannon taking her father out for his birthday, which is like really sweet. He turned like 96 or 97, so that is a blessing. Other than that, I was bored. I don't care outside of like, that's awesome. He has such a great life and he's like, still in his right mind and still, able to enjoy his life. That's great. But other than that, I was like, TikTok, it felt so long and dragged out and like, I didn't care about it. I said this in another recap. I was like, I don't think Shannon has friends outside of this group. And let's be honest, this group of people aren't even friends. They're colleagues and they're frenemies and they're, in competition with one another. So they're not even friends on the show. I don't think she has anybody to like really film personal scenes with. Somebody commented on Blue Sky and was just like, why is she dragging this poor 90-something-year-old man out of the house to sit down and film a scene? And I replied back, I was like, her daughters are out of town. She doesn't have a man. Archie's sick of her. And she does not seem to have any friends to have any sort of personal scene. So it's like she's grasping at straws and yeah, she has to pull out, her freaking 90-something-year-old father to like sit down and have cameras in his face. And it was weird. I'm spending way too much time on this, but I will say that she did look great in her new confessional look. So as much as Shannon, Bador, Storms, whatever she goes by these days, as much as she gets on my nerves and I have things to say, I will always give a woman props when I think she looks great. And I think she did look great in her new confessional look. Okay, moving on. Okay, so in the next scene, Gretchen meets up with Gina, and Gretchen is saying she feels so betrayed that Katie would take what she said and, go tell a journalist and, ever take back any sort of conversation back to a journalist. I'm like, girl, I thought you said you didn't say it. But anyways, I was kind of rolling my eyes at first because I was like, oh, here we go again. Like, how many more scenes are we going to have of this? But then, ladies and gentlemen, the blogger in question, Kiki Monique, actually joins them at the restaurant. I was like, oh. And then I was like, not a shenanigans plug, because Kiki tells Gretchen, oh yeah, I met you before. Like, we talked on the phone or we interviewed you for shenanigans. Like, Kiki is part of Sheena Shea's podcast, Shenanigans. And so they had a big old plug, a big old like picture of her podcast cover. I'm like, oh Lord, not Sheena Shea on my screen. But anyway, so basically when Kiki sits down with them, Kiki shares and confirms that Katie did tell her that, Gretchen had to go to the hospital because she was drugged the night of Naked Wasted. And Kiki does confirm that Katie did say that Gretchen did say it. And so, the girls really feel kind of validated and they're really happy that this was cleared up. However, the mess was not done. Kiki also said, well, Gina, your name also came up in this conversation. And it was pretty much like Katie was almost alluding that Gina was racist because Katie had told Gina that she wants to showcase Asian designers. She wants to wear, as much clothing as she can and highlight Asian designers. And one day Gina asked her like, oh, are you wearing an Asian designer? I was like, okay, that's a reach. Like, hey, I'm not Asian, so I don't want to speak. I don't like speaking for other people saying you should or you should not be offended by X, Y, and Z. But personally, I was kind of like, okay, and, it could have been the tone. It could have been whether you felt like she was making fun or whatever. Gina says in her defense, when she made that comment to Katie, she was already annoyed with her just because of all of the swirl and all of the foolishness that, is kind of always around Katie. So she was already kind of annoyed with her. And she does agree that Katie said that she wanted to highlight Asian designers, but all she has seen Katie do was highlight the kind of well-known European designers. And so she's kind of like, okay, you're saying this one thing, but you're doing another. And so when she did say that, she did mean it as like a little jab, but Gina doesn't, I mean, not that anyone's going to go on TV and say, yeah, I meant to be racist, but Gina says, it wasn't meant in a derogatory way. It was more so pointing out your hypocrisy yet again, because you are constantly saying these things and doing something different. And so, that was Gina's side of the story. And again, my point of view, again, I cannot speak for someone who was the one who was offended, but my point of view, I was like, I'll give Gina a pass on this one. I just don't think there was enough there to like hold any weight to it. So I can say a lot about Gina, but I'm not going to put that on her. So then Kiki leaves. Gretchen's crying. I was like, oh, girl, stop. You have been through worse on this show, and you are just, what was me? I'm like, girl, enough. So she's like, Gretchen's pretty much upset, like, why I've been warned so much about Katie, and I'm just so upset I didn't listen to my other friends who have warned me about her. And, now I'm paying the price because now I'm seeing what other people have been saying about her. The next scene was yet another filler scene. It was Heather just having game night with Terry and 3 of her kids. They were playing poker. They discussed what else? The only storyline Heather ever has going on, a house. What is she going to buy? Where is she going to buy? Who cares? Moving forward. I will say Heather did look good in her confessional as well, but moving on. We see Emily planning a Persian New Year. So as a reminder, Shane is half Persian, and Emily wanted to help out his mom planning the New Year because her mother-in-law's husband was in the hospital. And so I thought that was really cute. That was, really sweet of her. She said she embraces, the Persian culture more than Shane does. I don't know what that says about Shane, or I don't know what's going on in that family, but I think that's really cool. But then when I realized that the Persian New Year's was kind of like the backdrop of her party to host these non-Persian women, I was like, there's not a Persian in sight. Like, we saw her daughter, who's a quarter Persian, come down the steps for like 10 seconds. Other than that, I was like, what is happening? It seemed really strange to use your husband's culture that he doesn't really embrace as like the backdrop of a party. I just feel like Emily is so desperately grasping to be like interesting, grasping at a storyline, grasping to have some sort of involvement on the show. Like this dog parade she did in New Orleans. This now, like everything just seems so disjointed and not authentic to her. It's very weird. I find it really strange. I don't know. Comment below if you would feel comfortable throwing a party that's to celebrate another culture that's not your culture or anyone else's culture in the room. Let me know. Or am I just being like weird and like, this is Housewives? I don't know. I was just kind of like, find something in your own culture to do and to celebrate. Like, you could have just did a Taco Tuesday. You could have just did like a pizza party. You could have just did like, I don't know. I mean, you had lie detectors there. I feel like you used a really cool holiday and then to cheapen it with like the lie detectors and like throwing the only person of color out of your house. I just thought it was really gross. Let me know if I'm just being like a sensitive Sally or if you're picking up what I'm putting down. Like, Emily, you could have done if you wanted to introduce the lie detectors, like you could have did a whole theme around that. You could have did a whole theme around, like truth bombs or revealing the truth or something around that. Like, you're a party planner, for crying out loud, aren't you? So just to like use like some leftover decorations from like your mother-in-law's Persian New Year is really strange to me. It was all weird. Okay. So then we see a montage of the women getting ready for Emily's Persian New Year party, and we finally get to the party. Gina gets there first, and Emily shares with her that she's going to surprise the ladies with lie detector tests. Heather arrives and she brings up. Can I just say, Heather arrives and she had a band-aid on her nose, and Gina, one of them points it out, and she said, "Oh, I had a biopsy," and they kind of brushed past it. Like, could have been editing, but it was strange that they were kind of like, "Oh, okay," and then just kept talking about something else, or they went off and made like a weird joke. I was like, "Are you not going to ask your friend if she's okay?" Like, it was strange. I don't know. We saw Heather later on in the episode when someone else asked about the band aid. She very quickly brushed it off. She said, "Oh, I had a biopsy, but I'm fine." So maybe she did the same thing in this scene and maybe it was cut out, but I found it so strange that they were like, "Oh, okay, so like whatever." Like, I would have asked my friend, like, "Are you okay? What was it? Like, you all good?" So Heather also mentions Tamra and asked if she's coming. Emily said she did invite her, and Heather just pointed out how hurt and upset Tamra was. And Gina was, I respected Gina in this instance because she was kind of like, well, she can't play victim and in a situation that she claims that she doesn't even remember. So the ladies arrive. Katie's confused why she's on the outs with Gretchen. Gretchen spoke to her, but was kind of cold. She wasn't overly friendly, and she's confused because at this point, Katie doesn't know that Gretchen met with Kiki, and so in Katie's mind, she's like, I'm doing all this stuff to protect you, and I'm doing all these things to protect you, but you're not appreciative of that. And mind you, during this time, like as Katie's kind of sitting there, she's really, really anxious and she's not feeling good. She goes to the bathroom and throws up. Like she's very anxious. She's very nauseous. In the after show, she shares that day she didn't take her anti-anxiety medicine and thought that she would be okay to just go to the party without it. And I think being in the pressure cooker that is Housewives, it just got too overwhelming for her. Assuming that was the true story, because Lord knows Miss Katie, I don't know if she knows the truth, but that is what she said in the after show. So Emily introduces the little activity. She at this point she hasn't told the ladies that it's going to be a lie detector test, but she does say like, "Hey, we're going to do an activity. We're going to ask each other really important questions. Whatever questions that you have for someone in this group, write them down." And so everyone starts like writing everyone starts writing down the questions that they really want to know. And Tamara arrives, and it's funny because we saw a flashback of Emily kind of preparing for this party, and she was throwing eggs outside of her house at the entrances of her like walk up to the house. And as everyone was arriving, everyone was like, "Girl, did someone egg your house? Like, what is that?" And Emily kept saying it's a Persian tradition to keep away evil spirits. I was like, "Girl, you need to get some more eggs because how did Tamara get up in your house? No one's going to talk about that?" Okay. But anyway, so Tamara arrives and, Emily just immediately greets her and apologizes for not reaching out to Tamara and just tells her, the things that she had going on with Luke, and she just didn't, get to reach out to Tamara. Emily, why are you apologizing to her? You didn't do anything to her. This is why Tamara plays in y'all's faces, because she can tell y'all to F off. I don't care. I'm quitting the show. This is stupid. Blah, blah, blah. She can do all that and then show up and you say, "I'm sorry." Emily is the biggest pick me loser I've ever seen in my life. Get some self esteem, get some confidence. I get that you want to be a gracious host, but I think there's a way that she could have been a gracious host and not open the door and be like, "I'm sorry." Like, I don't know. So then, as they're kind of just talking, Gina comes in. And as soon as Gina walks up, Tamara does actually apologize to Gina. And Gina accepts it right away. And she's just like, let's move on. And then here goes. Oh, then we saw in the after show, that Gina, Tamara, and Emily are all paired together. They're all grouped together for the after show. And Tamara was saying like, oh, that's why I really like these two. Um, they're just able to move on. And I'm like, yeah, people with like whatever disorder you have where you lash out and verbally abuse people and cut down people and lash out and go low and lie and manipulate, yeah, you probably do like people that can just brush that off. So no wonder you like them all of a sudden. Girl, bye. But anyways, and as Gina and Tamara are making up, Jen and Shannon and someone else was sitting there. It might have been Katie, but Jen and Shannon were in earshot of all of that. And Shannon was just kind of like, this is unbelievable. Like, you can act like that and leave for a week and then come back and you're greeted with open arms. Okay. And Jen was kind of agreeing like, yeah, this is ridiculous. So I'm glad there's a few people in the group that can just kind of realize how ridiculous Tamara is and the dynamics of this group in accepting her terrible behavior. I wish they were more vocal about it, but you can only do so much when there are just like so many followers. So then Emily announces to the group that they're going to be taking polygraph tests, and Katie looks shook. She looks visibly uncomfortable. She looks like, okay, I can't get out of this one. So the ladies take their lie detector test, and again, it was more of a filler scene. This scene was a little too long. The compilation of everyone doing their tests and like answering, and again, it went on a little too long for me. And Bravo, step it up. Who's their production? I don't know if it's Evolution or Truly Original, but whoever the production company is, step it up. It's okay to have a shorter season with more impactful episodes rather than, many episodes and half of them are filler or a quarter of them are filler. Sometimes you do need that transitional episode, but this one was painful, I gotta say. So I'm going to pull up the results and I'll go through them quickly, or as quickly as I can. Okay, so Emily was up first, and Emily apparently told the truth about not speaking badly about Heather in front of the kids. Gina told the truth in that she's not friends with Heather for real estate connections. And it's funny, when those two things came up, I was like, ooh, Katie was at the root of both of those rumors. And there were probably, and then we know she was at the root of the paparazzi photo that came up with Heather. There might have been something else, but then we obviously have the Gretchen stuff. So I was like, dang, Katie, you're in the mix. You're in the mix. I got to look up that reunion chart again because, or no, they don't have it out yet. Yeah. So with all of this, Katie should be first chair. I know no one likes her, but she's in the mix. You can't deny that. Okay. So then for Tamara, they asked Tamara if she reached out to Slade's ex. This was years ago, but I'm assuming Gretchen asked this question. And in the lie detector, Tamara said yes. Now, mind you, years ago when this came up, Tamara said, I never reached out to her. She reached out to me. Now, years later, I don't really remember. I might have. So because I might have, I'm just going to say yes. And that was the truth according to the polygraph. I'm just like, it's so old at this point, but it's just another indicator that Tamara lies. And I'm not talking about the based on the lie detector test. I'm just talking about the mere fact that you cannot keep a consistent story. The truth is the truth is the truth. So if you're saying 10 years ago you didn't reach out to her, then 5 years later you should say, I never reached out to her. 2 years later, you should say, I never reached out to her. This year, you should be able to say, I never reached out to her, but she called me and we talked and this is how I got the information. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I don't really, maybe, I'm just going to say I did. You're a liar, dude. I can't. Anyway, when asked, does she want to be friends with Shannon? She said yes, and she passed. And then the question was she really told that she was on the spectrum? She said yes, and she failed. And she failed. So, no surprise there. The asshole spectrum, yes, but the autism spectrum, not so much. Okay. So then the results for Jennifer. Did she befriend Tamara with ulterior motives? She says no, she passed. She was asked if she trusts Katie. She said yes, and she passed. Then she was asked, does she have any reservations in marrying Ryan? She said no, and she failed significantly. um Jen says, she doesn't have concerns more so marrying Ryan. It's more so getting back into a marriage because of what had transpired in her first marriage. And she just wants to make sure that she's okay. Her kids aren't in some unstable environment. And there's, I guess, trepidation around marriage in general, but not necessarily marriage to Ryan. That's how I got it, or at least that's how I understood it from what she said. Do I believe it? I think there is hesitation with Ryan. I mean, who wouldn't have hesitation with Ryan? I'm still not sure what he does. I mean, last time I checked, he didn't have a job. And then it's all this like, you know, um, legal stuff that he is adjacent to or part of or, recently pardoned from. Yeah, you would have to be a Looney Tune to not have some sort of like not to have some sort of questions about it. So I think deep, deep, deep down, she knows, a woman always knows that, I love him. He's great, but something's not right. I think she does know that. Best of luck to them though. But although Jen, she has been acting a fool online lately. First, she had that video with Gretchen with the Asian music and like the taekwondo or the Asian martial arts sound effects and making all the like sounds that went along with it that offended Katie and offended some other people. And then you have and then I guess coming out of that, people were kind of like getting on her, and maybe also whatever happens on this show, people have been getting on her, and she's kind of like, oh, I don't want to talk about this race crap. And I'm like, oh, race crap, that's a very privileged statement. Must be nice to not want to talk about race crap. Like, I don't get that privilege. I don't get to like not talk about it. But awesome. So I'm starting to see some, and not that it's surprising. I know, the area where she lives, and I know the majority of the demographics that are there and the majority of the politics that are there. So it's not surprising. But Jen, I can't go so hard for you now that I have like solid proof of your stance. I'm like, oh, Jen, I really liked you. Now I'm just like, throw the whole franchise away. I at least had Jen, or I was like, oh yeah, my MVP. Girl, you're not my MVP anymore. So now we get to Heather, and one of the questions was, would you rather be on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills? And Heather said yes, and she passed. I said, I know that's right. And Tamara, I think, said, oh, she wants to be with the fancy girls. She wants to be the girls with the money and not with us. And I said, who has money? I mean, Sutton and Kyle Richards, yes. Erica, no. Garcelle left. Jennifer, okay, yeah, the girls got money. Never mind. Jennifer Tilly, Kathy Hilton. Okay, never mind. The girls got money. It's really just Erica who's the broke one there. Okay, never mind. Scratch that. Yeah, she probably just wants to be with people in her life. I'm not mad at it. Heather says it's really just because they're closer and, it's the easier commute. But, Heather just looks down on these girls like these trashy broads. But honestly, Heather, you're up Tamara's ass, so you must like the trash. I don't know. When asked, did she call the paparazzi? She said no, and she failed. Jen had a cute confessional basically saying, like, Heather should own it. You know, the fact that she can just the call up TMZ, call up the paparazzi and say, I'm going to be at Disney World, come take my picture, and people show up. She was like, you should own that. That's great. Because if I were to call, they would be like, who? So I thought that was cute, even though I'm mad at you, Jen. Gretchen goes next, and she pretty much passed across the board. Did she tell Katie that she was drugged? She said no, she passed. Did she go to the hospital? She said no, and she passed. But then Tamara and Shannon clock that's a lie, because while they were in New Orleans, Gretchen told them in the car, I was so sick, I had to go to the hospital. Yes, I went the next morning. I was so sick. Which one is true, Gretchen? Tamara, this is probably the first time I agreed with you in months. She was just like, Gretchen is so good at lying that I think she believes that it's the truth. And when you actually believe it's the truth, it doesn't show up as a lie on the lie detector. So basically, like, Gretchen was essentially lying her ass off, but she's so accustomed to it, like that's kind of like her baseline is lying, that like her body didn't have any inflections in heart rate or breathing or anything like that to indicate that she was lying. And I believe that. Because she lied at some point or another. She's still a liar. She either lied that she went to the hospital or she lied that she didn't. But she's saying two different things as if we don't have a camera in her face. I'm so confused. These women are like not the smartest. But anyway, they also asked her if she posted any negative stories about Tamara, you know, in the blogs and whatever press. She said no when she passed. So then we get to Katie, and Katie pretty much fails everything. She was asked, did she tell Nikki that Gretchen was drugged and hospitalized? She said no. She failed. Did she play the recording of Shannon when Shannon was having her little freak out of the month? Did she play that recording of Shannon for Alexis? Katie said no, and that was a lie. Did Gretchen tell Katie that she was drugged and went to the hospital? She says yes, and that was a lie, according to the polygraph. So Katie doubles down on everything. She's like, I'm not lying. I'll do the test again. Like, I'm telling the truth. And, you know, Gretchen's kind of like, you know what? Enough of the BS. I met with Kiki. She confirmed that you did say that. You did say that I said that, and it's not true. And Katie's like, no, you did say that at dinner. You did say that at Mastro's. And she's looking to Jen for backup. She's like, Jen was there. Jen heard it. Our men were there. They heard it. And Jen's like, don't pull me into this. Just speak on your own experience, like pretty much leaving Katie out to dry. And in her confessional, Jen says that she feels duped by Katie. I'm like, okay, girl, but good luck rolling with Gretchen. And as if that wasn't enough of a pile on, Gina also brings up to Katie that Kiki brought up kind of like some racist allegations coming from Katie. And Katie, once again, was, you know, thrown off by it. And Emily essentially kicks her out. They were kind of just like, you know, we can't trust anything you say. Like, you need to go. While Katie's outside, we see her talking to a producer, and Katie's doubling down that Gretchen did say these things and Jen heard these things. And she's like, I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the truth. And basically she says, you know, this is probably going to be the last time that you see me around these women for a while. No one wants to be around her. So I did see reports that she's not going to be in the next few episodes because the ladies refused to film with her. And I'm like, that's interesting when she's one of the only storylines of this season. But sure, shoot yourselves in the foot and continue to have a lackluster season. Makes sense. All in all, we see why lie detectors are not admissible to court. There's so many inconsistencies. Katie is not the only liar on this cast. I thought it was disgusting, and I thought it was very performative and weird that Emily hosted this Persian party when she's not Persian. Her husband barely embraces it, and none of the ladies were Persian, even though Gretchen thinks that she's an honorary Persian. Gretchen gets on my nerves when she talks about people of color, because I remember when I saw her on some other reality show, it might have been like Marriage Boot Camp or something. I saw her on some other reality show, and seeing her interact with black people was so uncomfortable. Like she kept just kind of pointing out, like, "Oh, I'm the white Oprah." Like my friends call me the white Oprah. Like and like she's. It was very strange, as if she's never talked to a black person before. And then now someone had asked her. I think it was in the after show. Had I think a producer asked her and Jen, because those two are paired up in the after show. Have you been to a Persian New Year? And Jen said no. And Gretchen was like, what? Of course. I have so many Persian friends. Look at my Instagram. And it's like, it's a weird statement to me. It's weird. The way she talks, it's like, it's weird. I don't know. I would never say I have so many white friends. Oh, look at my Instagram. Okay. I don't know. It's weird. So she's like, yeah, like look at them all. They're all on my Instagram. And she's like, yeah, like I'm the honorary Persian. My friends call me an honorary Persian. I'm like, do they? She's weird. I guess. Anyway, so I found it weird that Emily had this like Persian party with not a Persian in sight. It's not even like her own culture to share. And then you sideswipe these ladies with lie detectors and kind of ruin a really nice celebration, a really nice holiday with lie detectors. And then on the cherry on top of this like really weird party is that you kick out the only woman of color. It rubbed me the wrong way, but I want to hear from you. How did you feel about this episode? Was it as much filler as I thought it was, or did you enjoy it? Let me know below. I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on, have your opinions changed on any of these ladies after the revelations of the lie detector, or do you just think they're all liars like I do? Let me know. Thank you so much for being with me today. I'll see you in the next video. Mwah. Bye.